Hello everybody, this is Glory. Welcome to Alpha Moon. Today in the series of Kali, we will be speaking about Devadasis. I hope we all know a little bit about Devadasis, but what we know till date is the dark societal crimes related to the Devadasis. What we do not know is what I'll reveal in this video today, where we will, where my effort is in bringing you the powerful, the mystical, the magnetic side of the Devadasis, the forgotten high priestesses of the world. And what did they seem like? What was their role like in the societal and the spiritual in the society? So Devadasis were the women, mostly women when they were young, from the backward classes of the society in India, were in the ancient times given away as a servitor to the temples of India, so that families who were poor couldn't afford a girl child. In the ancient days, what they felt convenient at the moment, and I think they must have thought their daughters would be safe than poor in the temples. So when these family gave away their daughters to the temple, very powerful temples of India, considering that these young girls, once they hit puberty, will then become the direct oracle of the divine, the God, and stay as the wives of the God. Remember, they were not the wife of mere mortals. So they were actually having a great stature in the society at that point. Now, eventually, because of the crime that got associated with the Devadasis, they have had this word Devadasis get used like slangs, and has eventually got a very, very bad press around it, which is not so. These were women had cultural significance, has ceremonial significance in the life of the blue-blooded ones, the royalties, the royal families, the men of high stature, or the men who were considered to go beyond a particular threshold to attain something massive in their life, were always brought to the grace of the gods, not directly, but to the wives of the god. What do I mean by the wives of the god? By the wife of the gods, I mean the Devadasis. So the Devadasis were considered to be married to the lord of the temple. However, she was merely in the sadhana of the god, immense sadhana of the god, so that her entire body was treated like a living goddess. Now, what does that mean? It means every woman, if she maintains a certain, you know, sanctified regime around her life in devotion of any kind of god, she will turn into an oracle. And the ancients knew it before us. The ancient always knew it. So, and these women were specifically kept for kings. So kings, when they were to, when they had their coronation ceremonies, before the coronation ceremony, the king was to stay dharmic, stay spiritually heightened, and was to stay at a certain frequency. And in order to reach there, they made sure that the king went to these Devadasis to have access. Not went to these Devadasis. The king was, the would-be king was given an access to these very sacred women who were living goddesses, who were the channels of the direct energy of the divine through their bodies. And why was this important? That's another question. This was important because these women who were called as the Devadasis were considered forever auspicious. Contrary to what we think of them right now, they were considered forever auspicious because they were in devotion to the goddess, to the god. They were the wife of the gods. Or there are different ways of describing them. Some call them the wives of the god. In Odisha, in the Puri Jagannath culture, we call them Maharis. So these were women who were also called as the, Saraswati Kalas. They were very intelligent. They were adept in the scriptures. They were beautiful dancers. They were musicians. They played instruments. They also sang classical music. So when a man was to attain a certain position of power which required dharma, they were brought to the great intelligence of the forgotten living goddesses that our culture had at that point. And what did the king do once he got the access to these high priestesses, the Devadasis? So the king was to have a sexual union with the Devadasis. Now the king could be married, the king could have kids, irrespective. They were brought to the Devadasis for a sexual union in order to access the energetic portal that Devadasis held within themselves. These Devadasis were always staying in the temple premises. They were forever in the devotion of the god of the temple. So it was considered they had become extremely spiritual portals of very high frequencies, so that this intelligence, this higher frequency of energy would get passed to the king in order to help the country's well being. This was the kind of intelligence with which our culture preserved the Devadasis. Now, what went wrong? As long as the kings existed, man of dharmic importance existed. Men who understood what family is and what sacred women are, and the difference between both. As long as as long as men, masculinity at its peak existed. What do I mean by that? Masculinity at its peak always bows down to the most feminine presence. It will bow down to as long as a woman enters a room, because a masculine at its center, a truly awakened masculine at its center, understands woman nurtures life. A woman is a sacred portal. And during those times, men who guarded countries, who gave their life for protecting the nation, the country's well-being, meant above and beyond family to them. That was the kind of purpose, impeccable purpose, that these masculine had in those day and age. And as these kingdoms vanished, times changed, people did not know what to do, because now everybody is playing equal. And once kingdoms, fell apart, society turned normal. These Maharis were then bereft of the status that was given to them, so they needed money, and they were then but forced to prostitution and other kind of ills or that any society might have seen or come across. And that is the most unfortunate thing that might have happened to this very, very powerful sect of women who were kingmakers. Actually, they were, with the blessings of the energetic portal, with the access to these women, it was considered that the men could turn into kings. An ordinary man could turn into king. So the access to such women was considered precious, and not everybody had the luxury to. But now you see how we speak of them, and that's very unfortunate. But why am I speaking of the Devadasis in a podcast of Kali? Because she is very, very, very related to my goddess Chinnamasta. Ask me why. How? Chinnamasta in the southern part of India, Karnataka and around, is also, there is a form of a goddess known as Yellamma Renuka, which is again the head worship that is done. Her head is worshipped. She is one of the forms of Chinnamastama, and it is considered that all these Devadasis were a direct lineage of her. And one of the name of Chinnamasta is Ma Yogini, which means she rules, she's the mother of all the yoginis, she's the master of all the yoginis. All the yoginis are around her. Once you master Chinnamasta, all the yoginis activate. In any construct, worship of Chinnamasta cannot be done without women. Especially the form of Chinnamasta cannot be done without women. She is the poster woman for women empowerment before women empowerment became a thing. Because look at the iconography. She has cut her own head and she's feeding the two women friends that she had, the yoginis, she's feeding. Now, the question is, can you, as the most empowered women, feed the yoginis, the army of yoginis that are there? You become the life force, the magnetism, the prana shakti to all the women around you. As you empower, the women around you get empowered. It is also the Devadasis of Chinnamasta. These women become the portals that carry her energy, and someone in the pursuit of Chinnamasta and someone who worships her or tries to understand her, please, no woman is unimportant, is going to be unimportant to you. Every woman will speak to you and will need something from you, and you will see the pain of all the women through your life. Living, I have been in her worship for more than over 5 years now, and I have not met one woman across, I have not come across one woman who hasn't shared her pain with me. And had it made me cry? Of course. Had it made me sit with her? Yes, very much. How did I feel? More powerful, more powerful. Every time I felt I was there for a woman, I felt her grace around me. Every time I was called by another woman friend of mine to be around, I felt her grace. As far as I was mocked by my male colleagues that, this is some pro bono thing that you do. Why are you always surrounded by women crying and sobbing and so sad when your life is not such? I did not understand it then. But all of these realizations came to me as something I just felt I had to be for them. I had to be there for them. I just had to go and see my friend. She's not fine. And trust me, I got away feeling beautiful as I made them feel uplifted and beautiful. And that is the essence of Chinnamasta. Can you feed the yoginis? If you can, you will get to rule with all of them. These are all very, and I always thought that these are all very, fierce, strong women in their own space, in their own life. They are extremely strong women, gone through some very serious stuffs, which is heart-wrenching, which is chilling in their life. God knows how they survived, but they did it all their own. There are certain parts of them which always seeked you, always seeked me, is something I felt. And as I was being present for them, and I felt they were a bit relaxed, and felt nice. That's when I realized uh, something, this was a role I played, and which I'm very proud of. Also, somewhere I feel it's not a matter of feeling anything. I was taken. They were brought, I was taken. It it happened both ways. And that's the magic of Chinnamasta. So Chinnamasta, in the path of Chinnamasta, the culture of uh, women supporting women and women empowerment, and the empowerment that I'm speaking of isn't for the meek kind of women. I was never around, I was never asked for help by the meek women, because they will not ask you. These were extremely dangerous women. I was like, I'm telling you, these women will kick anybody's balls off. They were that strong women that I have come across. They would take no shit for anyone's business. They meant business. However, they also had pains. They had the burden to be that very strong women. They also had pain. So when I spoke to them, I could touch upon that and I could soften that side of them. And I think that is the secret of Chinnamasta, which nobody tells. The women around you will be a huge army of extremely strong women who have gone through shit in their life. Shit meaning absolute shit in their life. Who had to go through a lot to recognize their own strength. They were brought to their own strength. Your job merely could be to see their strength and be aware of your own. And remind them that life is a beautiful place too. And I think that was where my role came. Second, these would also be the women where this is very sensitive thing, where they would always get into a very tricky relationship, because which even if they get married, the husband would be unavailable, not present for them. So it's like they become like Devadasis. They become like Devadasis, turning into oracles. The Devadasis were not supposed to get married, as they were married to the divine. They were not supposed to get married to any particular man, because no man can handle that sort of divinity in a woman. A man cannot take entirely the divinity of a woman completely. It takes him, that's why marriages were made. That's why at all marriages were made. Because eventually, slowly, the woman builds the man with her energy in the spirit world. Because at once the man cannot take all the Shakti within a woman. He will eventually receive it. He has to take care of it, her, and love her, and all these things were made eventually. These were not there before. So imagine the Shakti of a very sacred woman, a temple living goddess, who was directly tapping the energetic bottle of the god himself or herself. She wasn't allowed to marry, because no mere mortal, unless ready. That's why the kings were coming to these women, because they had prepared, they had put in enough work on themselves to now become the ruler of the country, to have access to her. So access was not taken lightly to these women. So coming back to the woman in these days, nowadays also, such women exist. Have you heard of those women who cannot have a stable relationship? People keep judging them because they have opinions, they are too strong. Even the man who appreciates strength cannot handle a woman like this because the divinity in her is throbbing for mere mortals to, just make 1+1 of it, make sense of it humanly. And it happens now also. Devadasis do exist amidst all of us in this society. They are just oblivious to their role in the society. They are now the forgotten high priestesses living with blinders on in the normal society, thinking they are normal. They are not. They are very, very precious bloodline. They were the kingmakers. So Devadasis usually had someone whom they felt loved. They also fell in love. They had a favorite, man or a favorite king to themselves, whom they chose, to have a child with, to just support the lineage to go ahead, so that the Devadasi, lineage was going ahead, just to have a child with the man they loved. And another mystery around this is the Puri Jagannath temple. The last Devadasi was from there, who were called the Maharis. So the last Devadasi recently died before, I think around 2009. I don't catch me on the timeline, but around 2009 or 8, somewhere around those, that day, year, she was the last Devadasi alive. In Puri, in Odisha, the Puri Jagannath temple, Subhadra Ma, in between, she is also the name of Ma Chinnamasta. So she is just the head between Jagannath and Balabhadra. She's just the head put. So head worship is done of Subhadra. Subhadra, a lot of Odia people will say that Subhadra is a beloved sister to Jagannath ji and Balabhadra ji. So that is why people hold her in their hands and take her to her rath, which is not true. I mean, she was loved by both of them, yes, but the true fact is she had no limbs. It is just the Shri Mukha, meaning the head, that is kept in the Ratna Sinhasan, meaning that within the temple premises in Jagannath temple. And there is a specific Rath Yatra of Subhadra, which happens in one of the districts of Odisha, which is Baripada, where the entire Rath is pulled by women. No men is allowed. So Subhadra as a Shakti is completely Chinnamasta, and she is Ma Yogini. She is the mother of all the Devadasis that feeds the army of yoginis and empowers them. So Subhadra is empowerment before empowerment knew the word itself, and it's a different sort of empowerment, not the kind that is not the performative empowerment. She is truly empowered. She doesn't empower the meek, she empowers the truly strong ones to get in touch with the softer sides. So I'm glad we spoke about the forgotten living goddesses, the forgotten high priestesses, the wives of the god, the Devadasis. Thank you so much.